وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يقول الحق سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الحكيم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He is worthy to be praised. We seek His help and we seek refuge in Him from our bad deeds and bad intentions. Whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide, there is no one to lead astray. And for those who are misguided, there is no one to lead to a straight path. And I bear witness and testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. And Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, is his final prophet and messenger, alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His glorious Quran, O mankind, fear your Lord and love Him equally, who created you from a single soul, and from that soul He created its mate. And from the original couple He created many men and women. And fear your Lord and love Him equally by the womb relation that bore you. And know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fully acquainted with all of your actions. The topic of discussion of the khutbah today, inshallah Rabbil Alameen, is of Tawbah. Tawbah is what we need in our lives. And inshallah Rabbil Alameen, we will see how it's important in our lives and how it makes a person better. If one were to come to every single one of us and does something tangent, will tell us, do 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups a day, 5 times a day, and I'll give you $500. Even the people who are not in shape like myself would subscribe to that. Because there is something particularly tangent. And we will engage something that we human beings have tendency to love. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states it in the Quran that human beings love the dunya, and love the wealth, and love money. That's clear understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled in our hearts. So every single one of us will be doing 5 times a day, 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups. We will be in the best of shapes. And knowing that that person who's giving us the $500 is not asking anything in return. We're not giving any service in return. Absolutely nothing. And if that relationship were to continue, we would probably like to understand that person who's doing it, at least to show some level of gratitude. To show him in his or her language how much we care about that relationship. And we would absolutely never do anything wrong to jeopardize that relationship. We would make sure never to talk ill about that person, never to offend that person. I ask the brothers and sisters to please turn off their cell phones, as this is a moment of reflection and a moment of connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We would never offend that person because there is clearly something tangible that is good for us. $500 a day. Not bad. 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, he probably will take from us no more than, 20, 25 minutes a day, and we are wealthy. If that person down the line were to come to us and say, so-and-so, our relationship has been building and you've trusted me all this long, I would want to take your right arm because some relative of mine need your right arm, and reply from us will be an equivocal no. And he was saying, I've been good to you all this time. Why wouldn't you? He said, because that right arm is definitely needed, and it's also priceless. If this is to reflect and to put some parable in our lives and some perspective, it is then to reflect on what we have of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are excessively priceless. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states in the Quran, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. And if you were to attempt to quantify and qualify the bounties of Allah upon you, you would never be able to. As Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu wa ardah, when he passed by someone who was having difficulty in his health, he said that person should say Alhamdulillah. So his companions were like, that person is having a lot of trouble. How could you say that person should say Alhamdulillah? And he said, isn't that person still able and capable of going to the washroom by himself? He said, in by itself, a person should be grateful for that. So when we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who bestowed upon us many priceless things, and knowing that we do sometimes, from time to time, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala identifies us in the Quran, that we make mistakes. We have plenty of shortcomings. And no one is to point the finger at the other person to say, oh, such and such person does more than I do. It's not important what the other person does, because every single one of us will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Farda, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Maryam. Every single one of us will stand alone, by himself or herself, standing before their Lord, and will be accountable to every action that they have done in this life. Knowing that we have shortcomings, knowing in those shortcomings we are jeopardizing the relationship with someone who loves us dearly, and who has an ample amount of bounties upon us. And despite all of the offense that we've done and we are doing against him or towards him, he still showers us with good health. He still showers us with good food. He still showers us with concealing our shortcomings. That in by itself is for us to be grateful for a long time. The tawbah, brothers, is something that is important when we know something wrong we do towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for the record, whenever we pray, whenever we fast, whenever we give charity, it does not add or subtract anything from the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is not in need of our prayers. He is in absolutely no need of us to make hajj. And he is definitely in no need of us making the fast. When he commanded us to do these actions, it's for us to elevate ourselves by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from a level of absolute inattentiveness to an absolute astute level of attention and awareness of our presence before him and our presence in this universe. The tawbah is necessary, even against some actions that we feel should not be excused. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Furqan, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَمَ اللَّهُ بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يَزْنُونَ وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ يَلْقَى أَثَامًا إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ عَمْلًا صَالِحًا فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. This ayah in by itself, the Muslim should be extremely grateful for. Describing the attributes of the servants of the merciful towards the latter part of Surah Al-Furqan. Descriptions of people who have high standards. He's describing them to be standing at night, speaking softly, walking gently, staying away from trouble. And if they were to commit some major sins of worshiping other than Allah, of killing unlawfully, and of committing adultery, those, technically speaking, Allah has the right to bestow His wrath upon them. But He gives us a little aspiration of hope. He opens up the gate of His mercy. It is not in vain that 113 chapters in the Quran start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. He tells us if we commit these major sins, and if we were to go back on our tracks and make tawbah, and strongly believe, and follow our belief with good actions. Because it's not sufficient for us to say, oh, by the way, brother, today I made tawbah and I'm perfectly fine. It just happens I was going by some place I used to be addicted to certain actions, and I just went there and hanged out for the entire day. It doesn't work. It simply does not work. You cannot take an alcoholic and put him in a bar and say, good luck with your recovery. That person has to take the actual steps towards their recovery. For that person to show in clear faith that whatever happened of a mistake is a person will abandon it forever. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ويا فوز المستغفرين. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله في السر والعلن. I advise you and myself to fear and love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala both publicly and in private. So this tawbah, as the shuyukh, as the scholars identify, requires 4 conditions. And look, if one was to look at the flip side of these conditions, it will make the human being who is seeking tawbah an astute, well-reflected, a leader, a clean mind and heart and spirit of a person who is attempting to do it. Not lazy, not someone who is constantly, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, it's something I probably will do next year. Oh, I'll make tawbah when I get old. And I'll make hajj. And I'll abandon all of these wrongdoings that I'm doing. Or maybe I'll give charity when I'm 60. As we have never prayed janazah on someone who's 5 or 2 or 60 or 25 or of all ages, good, bad, or otherwise. When death comes to us, it does not send us an email of warning, your account is about to close in 20 days. Good luck. It just happens. So we have to be prepared at all times and be aware, as the Quran says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Do not die except in a state of submission. Constantly renewing our iman and constantly following it with actions that is sincere and honest and following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the conditions of tawbah are 4. For a person to acknowledge the mistake. And this requires for us to be constantly critical of our actions. To have the tape rewinded daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. To say, what have I done right? And what could I have done possibly better? I'm not putting the guilt on us now. What have I done right? What could I have done possibly better? And I'll go to what I have done so-so and say, I have faulted in this, and to acknowledge it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't need to go into a booth and tell another person. It's direct between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a direct link between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open a very private conversation and say, oh Allah, Elfilali, warhamni, watub alay. Forgive me and grant me repentance and conceive what I have done wrong. The first thing is to acknowledge the mistake. The second condition is to have a sincere intention to never go back to that mistake again. And we have many people we love around us, correct? And we may have done some things to offend them from time to time. Inadvertently, not knowing. And when we realize, we seek their help and we seek their forgiveness, and we send them gifts and we do every single thing. And the one thing we always tell them, I promise you, I would never, ever go back to it again. I would never hang out with that person because he's the wrong person. I would never go by that institution because it affects my health and well-being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to make that sincere condition very open and say we'll never go back to that mistake again. The third one is to soften our hearts. It's for us to feel really sorrow and feel sorry about what we have done wrong. Some of the text says that we have to cry when the mistake is of grave situation. To cry. And if we have done, and which is the fourth condition, is if we have done anything wrong against a human being. If, God forbid, someone were to take from a brother a sum of money, or offended them verbally or physically, to go back to that brother or to that sister and ask, I have done this wrong to you. Please forgive me. Please, this is what I have taken away from you. This is in retribution to what I've done wrong. This is the sum of money may have taken wrong from you. This allows a person, one, to be of reflection upon one's action. Two, to create a strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Three, to have a soft heart, never to feel toughened or sometimes at ease with all the mistakes that we accumulate. And we feel like, pride when we do something wrong. Oh, by the way, X, Y, Z wrong. And we brag about it. And that has killed our hearts. And the fourth element is to create harmony in families and societies and in humanity. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that there will be friction between people. It is not if the friction will happen, it is when it happens, what should we do? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes the ayah by Allah saying to us, as a bonus of making tawbah, Allah will exchange all of the bad actions into good deeds. Who else can do this? And why do we constantly attempt to offend or disgrace ourselves in His presence? And Allah, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is oft forgiving, oft merciful. That's when we are doing wrong, He wants us to remember Him by this. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I would like to conclude by saying one thing. We should never make mistakes knowing that Allah is Ghafur Rahim. But we should remember the man that came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He said, if I were to kill a man, would I be forgiven? And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, no. And another man came with the same exact question. If I were to kill a man, would I be forgiven? And the answer was yes. So the companions were perplexed. The same question. Two different men, two separate answers. He said, as for the first one who I said no to, he was thinking about committing the act. So I have to deter him by saying, no, Allah will not forgive me. As for the second, he had already committed the act of killing. So I have to open the gates of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is oft merciful. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow His mercy and kindness upon us. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا واهدنا وتب علينا وتجاوز عن سيئاتنا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم لا تدع لنا في مقامنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا أعنتنا على قضائها يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اجعلنا من التوابين. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين يسعون إلى المغفرة والتوبة يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ولآبائنا ولأمهاتنا ولمشايخنا ولكل من له الحق علينا. اللهم ارحم موتانا واشف مرضانا. اللهم هون على إخواننا في سوريا وفي مصر وفي فلسطين وفي كل البلاد. اللهم اجعلنا مهتدين. اللهم اجعلنا مهتدين. اللهم اجعلنا مهتدين هادين يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم صل على أشرف الخلق محمد وعلى آله وصحبه كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك اللهم على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وارض اللهم عن ساداتنا أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وعن التابعين وتابعين إلى يوم الدين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا تراصوا وسدوا الفرج فيض الجالس واخشعوا في صلاتكم وصلوا صلاة المودع. الله الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها. قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوا فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
ونسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد